is Midweek Extra, it is John Gibbons, and Liverpool have won a game. We are in association with NordVPN. More from them later, but I do want to get straight into it with Phil Blundell, with James Sutton, and with late super sub Andy Heaton. And Andy, let's start with you. It was really lovely night at Anfield. 6 goals, none to them. Popular goal scorers, young lads coming off the bench. LA, ringing out at 4-0, scarves twirling. It's how it's meant to be.
It was like the Twilight Zone, to be honest. It's been a while. But no, great performance, start to finish. I mean, PSV aside, they've looked at a different proposition in Europe anyway. I mean, I was surprised. There was a little bit of scepticism going into the game. And I remember that I was talking to Rob yesterday saying, oh, they should beat them and beat them easy. But how many times have we said that this season anyway? For them to trip over a banana skin. But I think that's the most... And look, it's dead easy to kind of write it off because Qarabag and one thing and the other. But they've got some decent results, albeit at home.
Well, they've got more points than PSV.
Yeah, well, I mean...
And we gave them 3.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They've literally gone out, haven't they?
Yeah, we gave them 3 of their points.
It wasn't as if, I mean, it's easy to look at it and go, oh, well, you know, the Qarabag collapsed after it went 2 and 3, but I thought we played well up until the first anyway. And since the goal was coming. And it was just, the best thing for me is when it went to 2-0, there was no reticence that crept in, that's been creeping in. In Liverpool, there was no fear. They just kept going for it. I mean, probably aided and abetted by the fact that Qarabag were like, we're just going to carry on going for it as well. But not really a short performance. I actually thought the performance got better as the game went on, which is we've not seen hardly any of this season.
Yeah, I think that is fair. I think they started pretty well, but did just sort of get better and kept the foot on the gas, which was nice to see as well. I think, you know, a couple of lads scored and the others like, wow, that looks fun. I'll have a bit of that.
Salah, we've forgotten what that was like.
Salah really celebrated his goal, which was great to see. And then Hugo's like, hang on, I haven't scored yet. And there was a good level of hunger about them all game.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of a throwback. I was saying to Phil before we started recording, you know, football is such a huge part of our lives and such a huge part of our enjoyment. And I haven't felt that level of enjoyment and that level of fun. And I'll be honest, I haven't sung very loudly in the Kop for a long time, you know, because there's that sort of chicken and egg thing, isn't there? Is it the performance that influences the fans? Is it the fans that influences the performance? But we haven't seen anything to kind of get behind for a long time. And the second half performance last night, just delightful. In so many ways, delighted for the clean sheet, delighted for the players who had, you know, playing out of position. You know, Gravenberch, for example, thought he was fantastic at centre-back. Endo coming on and doing loads of really good Endo stuff. The goals, the Ekatike goal, I mean, those 2 touches and that finish, the fucking pace on the man.
Yeah.
Good Lord, there's loads of reasons. As you say, you know, we don't want any false dawns here. But if we can just carry...
I didn't say that, I want all false dawns.
but if we can carry that second half performance forward, I disagree slightly with Andy. I don't think we started particularly well. I thought the first half was a bit dull, and I think we were falling into that trap that we've been in certainly a number of games this season where, like, there's no defensive press. We're just sort of stood around waiting for something to happen instead of controlling the narrative and making it happen and seizing the game, which is what you should be doing at Anfield. But second half, it was night and day, and it's I guess it's a question around whether it was them kind of fading as we started to bully them, because we did start to bully them from about the 60th minute. Or whether it was our performance that justified the result. But yeah, ultimately, just fantastic.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the odds before the game. Qarabag were 20-1, which was longer than Barnsley were, which is quite interesting. Now, I think there was a bit of contact with the Barnsley one. Was they were at that point quite sure how strong Liverpool were going to go and things like that. But still, it does show they were 11-1 for the draw. So, you know, they're not a great team and they were written off coming, and obviously they played in a style that I think it was fair to say suited Liverpool. In fact, Arne Slot will tell you himself. But I think all that being that Liverpool have faced challenges, not quite exactly like this, but similar ones, and haven't delivered in the way they did. So we've got to be pleased.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I did quite like in relation to the Barnsley game was that there was a thing about when Szoboszlai made that mistake, there was the whole, he wouldn't have done that if they were playing Real Madrid. And then their lad got very close to doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And he's playing Liverpool in front of the crowd. So maybe Szoboszlai would have done it against Real Madrid. But yeah, it was... You know, I think you go into these types of games, and you know there was a lot of low block chat, and it's like, oh, they'll just turn up in a low block, but you can't just suddenly do that. they're a front foot team in their league with footballers. You know, that there was that lad who, I think he was wearing number 9, I can't for the life of me remember his name, but he sort of turned McAllister a few times in the first few minutes. He wasn't particularly dangerous, but he sort of just dropped the shoulder, got away, created a bit of space because he's a footballer. They don't have the time of players that could have just sat up in, you know, 2 blocks of 4 or a 4 and a 5 or 6 or whatever and come and frustrate Liverpool, because you can't just suddenly decide to do that. You have that.
That's not the team. That's how the team.
It's a learned ability, and
yeah.
they're you know, they win the league most years. They're playing in reasonable levels of European football. I think we could have got them in the Europa League 2 years ago. So that's just not within their nature. They were a football side. They tried to play a bit of football, and Liverpool just fairly comprehensively beat them, because ultimately Liverpool have got better footballers than them. You know, our bench obviously wasn't strong last night, but in a normal week when everything's right, none of their players would probably get on Liverpool's bench. And you know, that sounds a bit disrespectful or anything, but it's probably just the way it is.
Yeah, there's been the better team that was showing around the years, and with there's times where we've stepped onto the pitch this season where, you know, you've got to look at the Burnley game. There's not many Burnley players who get on our bench if everyone was full strength, but we still draw the game 1-1, don't create enough, and look a bit shaky when in the moments where they have a go. And so I think you've still got to be pleased. You've still got to enjoy the moments where Liverpool show the dominance and continue to show the dominance and play some nice football as well.
Yeah, very little trepidation, which was the most impressive bit. And we got through the first 10 minutes without doing anything daft to give them an excuse. So yeah, just consistency through it. And you know, there's a parallel universe where we got a second against Burnley, and the game kind of might have gone a similar way. And then, but obviously the second isn't long after the first, which I think helped massively. And then after that, you know, it was great. And as you said, John, you can compare the level of opposition and, you know, the league they come in, but you know, they just dealt with it. They just dealt with it, and I thought that it was, I think, for the first time in probably since August, September, it looked like they played with a kind of identity, as opposed to looking absolutely paralysed. Because there have been times when I've watched Liverpool at Anfield this year, less so at home, where clueless is, or badly coached is the wrong word, and I don't mean to say that, but they looked muddled in their thinking. Like the risk-reward thing, like there was the Burnley, again, I'll cite as an example, there was a couple of times when it looks like Liverpool could have broken, they didn't. Whereas there was this kind of freedom yesterday where they expressed themselves. And again, caveat that by saying maybe that was down to how Qarabag sets up, but you've still got to be what's in front of you.
They worked, I'll use the word express themselves there. I thought they worked out that they could just express themselves. It was a slightly different formation. It was 4-2-3-1. It was a necessity really, rather than necessarily the team that the manager would have picked if it had everyone fit. But I noticed, you know, at first McAllister and Szoboszlai were being sort of quite conservative, you know, thinking, well, you know, it's up to us to hold it. And then they worked out during the game, because the clever players, when they were able to get forward a little bit more, I thought the fullbacks were doing, you know, similar. Even Gravenberg, you were seeing sort of step in on occasion when he realised, hang on, they've only got one forward, and he's so isolated that I can step into midfield and create an extra body. And that's another thing that we've not seen loads of, us kind of, and we saw a lot of it last year. I thought it was something they were actually really good at last year. They didn't always start games brilliantly, but they worked out the opposition, you know, on the pitch. They were doing some good work at half-time with the analysis, working out where the space was, and that seems to have gone away. But I thought I saw that last night with this idea of McAllister suddenly realising, hang on, I can break in and be an extra body because the space is there, and that's how we're going to hurt them. And the confidence to do that was a good thing.
Yeah, you used the word conservative there, and I think that's the right word for how we've approached a lot of the games this season, where that risk reward that Andy mentions, that needle's fallen far too far into the risk section, and it's just felt really conservative. It's felt really, really slow, and so there was a couple of times last night where ordinarily, they would have passed backward. They would have turned and passed backward, or played it safe, or calmed everything down. But all of a sudden, you've got Endo on his own, screaming for the ball, and you want to use a player like that. And I think it's just, I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what, because, you know, these players they must be feeling pretty low, given some of the results and where we are in the table and the pressure and, you know, the narrative that's surrounding the manager. That all has an effect. So I think a game like last night might have come at exactly the right time for them to put a performance together like that and go, actually, do you know what? If we all kind of stick together and we're all playing in the same way and we know our roles, and there's an argument as well. I know, you know, I've certainly had conversations with my friends over the past few weeks and months and so about what the actual plan is. Like, is this the plan? Is this what the manager wants this team to do? And I say that on the back of a lot of losses and draws that we've had. Is this the manager's plan? Because if it is, it ain't working, and everyone seems a bit confused, which I think is partly what Andy was saying. No one seems quite sure of their role. But last night, and whether that was because the manager had kind of just stopped and kind of given them an opportunity to play with a bit of freedom, I'm not entirely sure. But whatever that was, we need to do more of that. So whether it's the manager, you know, not giving them as many instructions, or whether it's the players taking it upon themselves to play with a little bit more freedom and a little bit more verve and a bit of creativity, then so be it.
I think the formation worked, and like I said, I think it probably was more necessity. But listen, that's fine. Loads of football teams in the past have stumbled on things out of necessity. But I think I liked Wirtz where he was. I liked him very much as a 10. What I liked about it is obviously we're seeing this blossoming relationship with him and Ekatike, and that's great. And they were able to really use that last night. You could see that. But also been playing with Salah, and I sort of realised halfway through the first half that we've not seen much of him and Salah together, because if they're both in the same team, which they obviously haven't always been for various reasons, they're on separate flanks, and so we've been using out of necessity again and out of making us a bit tougher to beat, you know, Florian Wirtz in a wide forward role. But even if they are in the same team, which hasn't always been the case, you know, if you've got Wirtz left and Salah right, they're not really going to be having the opportunities to combine, even if Wirtz is coming in a little bit. So I was enjoying that. I was enjoying him popping up in different places, Wirtz, and I thought, yeah, because I think Salah, if you give Salah a clever player, he'll link up well with them, and because he is so smart and he loves good movements, Salah, and he loves giving someone the ball and knowing he's going to get it back. And I thought we saw a lot of that first half, and I thought if we could find a way to make more of this happen while also giving us that stability behind, we could be onto a real winner here.
Yeah, it developed, didn't it? Because I think at 0-0 there was one where Wirtz has the ball and he elects to shoot when there was a really easy ball onto Salah, and Salah probably just wrapped his left foot round it and scores. And that was sort of one of them. I was a bit like, I understood why he wanted to shoot in that position, but it was
also a heavy touch as well, which didn't help.
And it was one of those where we probably go 1-0 up then, and that was only after about, I think that was 5 minutes in.
But no, that was the wrong option.
It was the wrong option, but I think the midfield too probably works a lot better when there's Gravenberch playing centre-back, that particular midfield too, because especially in this kind of game where you said before he stepped out, there was one in the first half where he's pressed a man basically where a centre-forward would tackle someone. I'm a bit like, hang on, do you need to be there? And then you sort of a bit like, oh well, yeah, it's all right, because A, it's his natural game, but also B, there's nothing in behind him, and if we're being aggressive that hill, we can maybe win it back and get Wirtz on the ball and using Salah and using Ekatike and using Gakpo and so on and so forth. But like in a normal league game, I don't think that midfield two would work brilliantly. I think there's a lot of scope to run off the back of that. But in the setup we had last night against the type of team we were playing, it does work. It's a lot of the thing at the minute is finding the right balance and, you know, what is the plan, for example. And I think the manager probably does know it, but I think it's been really hard for him to find it. Like, let's be perfectly honest here, how many seconds of his summer signings, and we can exclude Leone from this, have they played together this season? I think it's 0. Like, so if you're saying I've got this plan based around what I'm going to do in the summer, and then you can't actually get those players on the pitch at the same time, you might necessarily not want to get them on the pitch, but it would be nice to have the option, and then nice to bring one of them on 60 minutes and do something else, and it's not a luxury that we've had, so you've got to sort of feel your way around things. And yesterday was a good example of finding your way, feeling your way through it and go with what you've got, and we did it well, and it was just quite enjoyable to watch.
Another nice thing was obviously you see a 4-0, the manager gets the opportunity to rest a few, which is good, but also to give a few young players a go, and I was pleased to see a lot of Rio and Trey Leone especially. It was interesting on Trey because the manager got a bit of stick after Barnsley for only giving him a few minutes, and to be fair, when it was you know, raised to him, he copped for it really. He said, listen, the reason I did, I was making these changes. I wanted to make sure we won the game, but I accepted I could have done it a different way and could have looked to give Leone more minutes. And so I thought that was a fair answer at the time, because he's explaining, you know, his reason and why, but also saying I understand, you know, the criticism of not giving him a bit longer. What he's done, he's taken the next opportunity he's had, which is this game, to give him half an hour, and I thought that was really good. And the reason I'm so pleased is that he was actually a bit quiet for 10 minutes in the only. Like, he was fine, but like, he was struggling to get in the game, and he was just a bit safe when he had it, and then you could see him really grow into it. I think he's a rhythm type of midfielder, and by that I mean he gets into the rhythm of the game and just starts popping it off like a metronome. And I thought getting him into it, and really show what he was about, and for Rio to get a little bit longer, especially when we're up in a game as well, and we're not just throwing him on out of desperation, I thought was really nice too. Trey was probably actually brighter than Rio and Gamo, which is great, because it's seeing another option emerge before you. But it was just good for him to have the opportunity, albeit when the game was won, to show what he was all about really, and I was pleased for him.
Yeah, I've got a bit of sympathy for the manager in so much as he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. With the young players, especially with the results have been going, and at the same time you could argue that, well, we should have been in stronger positions in league games to be able to do that. But yeah, given the opportunity, please roll him. And also Nala come on as well, didn't he? And didn't get sent off, which is nice.
He had a little go.
It was a tackle, wasn't there? There was a bit like,
it's good job he missed everything.
150 to 1 to get a red when he came on.
one of my mates had the quiz on.
Did he? Yeah.
He had a little go, bless him. But yeah,
3-3.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, he missed everything and it was fine. But yeah, please for him, he's been part of a win.
Yeah, but with Leone specifically, I always think when you're making substitutions, like a fullback for a fullback's fairly easy. You know what job you're doing. You know you're up and you're down, you're defending. Same for centre half. Even as a striker, you know exactly where you're going. You're going to sit up there and try and sniff something out. I just think in that area there, and we've seen it with other midfielders. I think Curtis, when he was younger as well, where he'd come on and he'd have to feel himself into the game a little bit, and then once they do, and they've got the, as you said, John, the rhythm of it, they settle right in. He didn't do himself any harm at all last night, and it's, you know, say what you want about, I keep saying level of opposition, it's a Champions League game at Anfield. Yeah. That's a massive achievement for him. So I just hope he enjoyed it, and I just hope off the back of this, you know, he's maybe feeling a little bit more comfortable, where if he does come in again, that'll just slowly improve, because that's all it's going to take. It's just minutes and time. And hopefully for the rest of the season, Liverpool's form will pick up to a point where he does get those minutes.
Yeah, it's much easier, isn't it, for any manager to use young players when things are going well, and things aren't going to get much better. The 4-0 at home or 5-0, whatever the score was, where he came on. But it was just nice to see him out there enjoying his football and showcasing what he can do.
Yeah, well, you're asking a huge amount, you know, from a young player to come in when Liverpool are desperate for something to happen, or for an opportunity or a goal or whatever. That's a lot of pressure to put on a young man's shoulders, to come into an environment like that, where the crowd aren't particularly behind you. You know, we're maybe not at our sort of creative best. You know, I don't want to use the words low block again, but when you're facing that kind of setup, you know, you're asking a young man to come on and go, right, we need you to do something really special. That's a difficult ask, and I think we've suffered from that in the past with young players, you know, who've been asked to come on and perform miracles almost. Whereas a night like last night, you know, it's kind of the perfect storm for them. Do you know what I mean? You can come on with a bit of confidence, you can play your game. You know, we're not going to concede 5. It's fine. You know, you're allowed to make a mistake, and that's an environment I think that all these young players need to experience, especially Champions League night under the floodlights.
Mo Salah was probably the most pleased goal scorer on the night, and it was nice to see. I mean, he loves scoring goals in front of the Kop, doesn't he? But you sensed that it meant a little bit more to him, and listen, Salah being behind the goals is no bad thing at all, because we're going to need him.
No, absolutely not. It was interesting. It was basically a mirror image of the equaliser on Saturday, wasn't it, in terms of a roll ball. And then
it's a cheap assist for both of them.
It is a cheap assist, honestly. No, it's one of those that doesn't count. It's like when I remember that goal Gareth Bale scored at West Ham, where he sticks it into the top corner for Spurs, and some got an assist because he passed the ball 3 yards. It's like, should it really
there's
count?
not many things I said I think I could do as a professional footballer, but
you definitely could do that.
He strikes that so well, doesn't he?
It's a brilliant hit.
To be fair, it's the easy assist. I went through 4 years of watching John Reese try and do the same thing and fail time after time after time. So maybe give him a bit more credit.
Absolutely, you make a very fair point, Andy. But yeah, it was just a lovely finish into the top corner, and you want to see more of that. As I said, he probably should have had the goal first half. The balls rolled to him. It's just about finding a bit of confidence in him. I do wonder if he was probably looked at that one back from Saturday where he slides it across to Gakpo and thinks maybe I should go there, and there's a little bit in that, and he's sort of like, well, maybe I can feed off this and make a better decision moving forward and go from there, because you want to see that, like that decision he made there was so out of line with what Mohamed Salah would usually do. He's about the right decision. He's been so much from the last 2 or 3 years has been about making the right decision, whether it's shoot or pass.
But even when he shoots,
yeah, exactly, 100%. That's exactly.
Well, because he wants to be the main man. He wants the
Yeah,
adulation.
exactly,
He backs himself. He wants to be the guy.
But there, he didn't, and that's so out of
exactly
what you think of him, and maybe he was a bit in his own head, and he's now sort of out. That's got him out of it, and there was the celebration was a release, and we can go from there, and hopefully he gets himself into the right positions on Saturday, and then the week after, and we go from there.
Yeah, all feeling good about that. That is the end of part one. We're going to talk a little bit about the manager in part two, and then look ahead to Newcastle in part three. Okay, we are back in the room. I am with Phil, with James and Andy, and I just want to give a shout out. Well, I remember to NordVPN for partnering with us for Midweek Extra for the rest of the season. Really do appreciate their support. Really appreciate the internet security they provide me, the peace of mind, and all the services they give. One of the main reasons I know so many of you do subscribe to NordVPN is the ability to change your virtual location with just the click of a button. It's so easy. I can do it. So if you're traveling about, you're an international playboy like James Sutton, you're in Miami one week, LA the next, everyone wants a piece here, but he wants to keep in touch with what's going with his TV at home. He never misses Coronation Street. It just allows you to change your virtual location.
Shut up, John.
To your UK, wherever you are. I'm in a flow, James. Don't put me off. Wherever you are, and you're back in the UK all of a sudden, even if you're in your penthouse in Miami and you're enjoying the UK television. But also, if you are here, if you are in the UK, but and there might be things going on in the UK just down the road from you at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon that you can't enjoy but are available in other countries where you can do what I do in those situations. Subscribe to a service abroad. I use Peacock, others are available, and then suddenly those things are open to you as well, just with a click of a button. So nordvpn.com, and the best news is there's a fantastic subscription available just for you. If you go to nordvpn.com/TAW, that is nordvpn.com/TAW. Thanks a lot to them, and up to it.
Do you think football scouts use it? I mean, like when Liverpool are scouting Qarabag and they've gone to Azerbaijan
and
they're
it's
like,
not on telly, and they're like, it's on Azerbaijan telly.
Yeah.
100%.
Someone says, I have no subscription to Azerbaijan Sports.
You know what I mean? Or even going to Azerbaijan and you want to watch James on the telly because you're missing out. Once you scout.
That's never happened in history. No one's found themselves in Azerbaijan going, damn it, Hollyoaks is on.
That's only because I've never been to Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
It's the right answer, Phil. Thank you.
Well, if you do, you now know what to do. There we are. What a sell.
That was really good, John.
Thanks.
You were in a flow, you were right.
It wasn't he? Flow state.
That was completely unscripted.
There we go. I just inspired by James's Playboy lifestyle. Anyway, we're gonna have a bit of a chat about the manager's chat because it's interesting at the moment. He's getting a lot of attention for certain things he's saying on his press conferences, and then some people are saying that we should completely ignore it, and then other people are getting very het up with it. It is interesting, that, Phil, because there's people we know who would take it very differently. So Dave Ricketts, your friend of mine, he's like thinks it's completely ridiculous that anyone's paying any attention to the press conferences. And then I've got other friends that you know as well who are saying he's trying to get sacked. He's doing the Amarim, he's trying to get sacked. Now, I think, as ever, the truth is probably somewhere in between. But what have you made of it? Should we be paying no attention? Should we be paying some attention? Is the press conferences, if not necessarily, fascinating stuff, a decent indication of where the manager's at? Or do you think some of his wording has been deliberate and he's trying to do something, we're just not quite sure what?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of don't pay that much attention to the press conferences in terms of what they say. They have to say things. They literally get a microphone shoved in front of them and they have to speak. And sometimes they waffle, sometimes they probably say things where it's like, oh, I'd probably like that one back. And as he said last night, sometimes I'm just a bit misunderstood. I'm speaking a long period of time in my second language. I think there's a lot of what he's doing at the minute is he's fighting for his job. and he's sort of making points that a lot of people don't like. Like, for example, the Atalanta thing last night is effectively, he read Wikipedia out effectively. And you can put your own interpretation on that. You can say, he should have said this, he should have said that, but that is like, that's quite literally a fact. You might not like the connotations of said fact. You might think it's talking something down, you might think it's this, you might think it's the other. But
is it strange that it's like just in his mind though? Like if you'd have asked me before that, how did Liverpool get on Europe 2 years ago, I'd have been like, I can't even remember which year was that.
So yes and no. One of the big things that's been said the last few months is that he won the league with Klopp's team. So is he not saying, well, this is what the team was when I took over? We'd lost. You lose 3-0 at home in the quarterfinals of a Europa League game. That would suggest you're probably not in some position where it's like we're the greatest team in the world and all this fella needs to do is pick a team and put them on the pitch.
Yeah.
So he's allowed. I feel like he's allowed to make this point. You might not necessarily agree with it, but he is allowed to sort of big himself up and point out things that he has done well
and try to take control.
And try and say, look, well. Yeah, exactly. Take control of the narrative. Like, maybe he's wrong on this, but he is also still allowed to say, look, when I came in, Liverpool hadn't been in the Champions League. That's true. Because a year previously to that, we've been terrible. Like, we were, 22-23 is bad, and we basically get into Europe. We effectively get into Europe because we win 7 in a row, when, if you remember Neil calling it the Big 9, if we'd have won all 9 games, we would actually got into the Champions League in the end. But we win 7, we draw at home to Villa, and then we draw away at Southampton. But without those 7 games, we probably wouldn't have been in Europe if we'd have continued on it that way. And it's also a way of saying, look, 3 seasons ago, it wasn't great, and it doesn't stay that way forever. And the manager who was the manager was able to change it as well and put Liverpool in a better position. Like, it's also a bit like you can't just have everything as a stick to beat him with. And he is fighting for his job here, and he might already be out the door. He might know he's already out the door. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
He might be trying to get his next job.
He might be saying, look, I've done this. And that's fine. Like, I personally don't mind if he's coming out and he's trying to go, look, this is what I'm capable of. Because ultimately, I want someone who believes in himself to be Liverpool manager. Not necessarily mean that he's going to be a success, but if he thinks that he's useless, then he's going to be useless just because that's how it works. So if he's able to sit there and go, I've done this, this is what I took over, here we are, fine. I personally don't care. As far as I'm concerned, won the league last year, he can say whatever he wants. Genuinely, I don't care.
This is the same manager who, 9 months ago was being lauded as someone who was great in press conferences. Yeah. People were saying, isn't it refreshing that he's so honest and he's so open with his tactics? I remember there's a few occasions.
The honesty thing's interesting because there was 2 weeks ago he basically said something about Calvin Ramsey and people were like, oh, you can't say that. And then on Saturday,
that was maybe a little bit too...
It was, possibly it was. But then on Saturday, he's basically said, oh, Van Dijk had a problem with the wind. And it's like, well, you can't say that either. Well, do you want the player hanging out, or do you want the player helped? You just can't have both.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think he's just a really honest man. I don't think he's necessarily it's not media training, but the scrutiny that's applied to people in the UK in the Premier League when you're managing a club like Liverpool is different, and the scrutiny is even worse when you're playing shit and you're in a difficult position. I'd argue that if we were in a good position in the league, no one's questioning half of this stuff. No one's picking it apart. That scrutiny doesn't exist. No, we're not picking everything apart and going, well, he shouldn't have said that or
but
that.
He's not bringing it up if we're winning though.
I understand that.
Bringing it up as Atlanta.
But also I think he's just an honest guy. I don't think he's trying to do anything particularly. He's just putting his foot in his mouth on a few occasions, and it's being over scrutinised because we've been shit.
I guess, Andy, for me, it's where the line is between fighting for your job and being a bit sort of self-serving in these situations, and that's where it's difficult. It is a fine line to cross because I think he's understandably under pressure, and so that's going to show. And I think, when you are fighting your job, being able to go, hang on a minute, I've done this and that, and I think we would probably all do that if we were honest in those sorts of situations. I also think it is worth saying if he could not do these press conferences, he wouldn't. He's not one of these managers who's desperate to get himself out there. I think if someone said to him, you don't need to do the press conference before Newcastle, he'd be like, fucking brilliant. He'd rather do other things with his time. But that's it. He does sort of have to do them, and he's choosing them to use them in a certain way that is inviting criticism on him. And when you say things like people aren't gonna like this, but I'm like, well, just don't say it. Just leave it then. When you start sentences with that, it just all becomes a little bit like, well, you acknowledge that this is going to be controversial, but you're saying it anyway, and for what benefit? And if it's just the benefit of him, then it doesn't completely sit right with me.
Well, as I was the press conference extra.
Great show. Good show. It's available for subscribers, by the way. Download the app.
No, so I'm slightly different to you two in somewhat. I'm come from a position where I really wanted the manager to succeed.
Yeah.
I think he's had rotten luck. Some of it's self-inflicted. I think it's just been death by 1,000 cuts at some point. So you're looking to give him the benefit of the doubt. What's really frustrated me, and maybe Dave Ricketts is right and it doesn't matter, but to me, words do matter. If I say Rafa facts to you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If we talk about Hodgson kowtowing to Sir Alex Ferguson after Man United beat us in their press conference, people remember these things.
Well, Houllier as well. People are saying to me, this is just like the end of Houllier, where he's coming up with crazy excuses and things like that.
But what's not upset me but frustrated me was, well, last night 6-0 win, everyone's kind of really happy and all that, and he just kind of put a pin in it a little bit. And then there was the comments about Ramsey, then there was the PSG comments the other day. What's interesting for me, and James probably boss on this because of acting and all that.
He does do acting and all that.
He does do acting and all that.
It's accurate.
He's not...
Say what you want about Andy, but you can't say that's not accurate.
That's your LinkedIn bio story. You think you don't need all that nonsense?
Clip it. Get that as a clip.
Acting and all that. Sorry, Andy.
Azerbaijan.
Available everywhere.
Where I start to worry with managers is when they're not answering the question they've been asked. They're deliberately choosing to bend it to say something they've already rehearsed.
Yeah.
And I think it's always a tell when they repeat it in multiple broadcasts. And the point he made about, PSG, he repeated that on a different broadcast. And it was very much like Rafa getting a bit of paper out.
Yeah.
And then there was the comments.
I don't think it's quite like sitting there in a press conference.
but
I've prepared a statement.
Mr. Ferguson.
Rafa takes everything to the
No.
The point I'm making is, he knows before even the microphone's turned on, I'm going to go there and I'm going to say this and I'm going to make this point.
Yeah, but
so, where I am with the manager in his position at Liverpool is, he's come in and last season he was talking about the title and went, no, it's not 2 and 30, it's 2 and 5. And now he's trying to have the 2 and 30 line, and there's no real consistency there, and he kind of makes a rod for his own back. I think he's making it more difficult for himself, is where I'm coming from. Because ultimately, if the only people, ultimately he doesn't answer to us, he answers to his bosses. And I think it's maybe indicative of where they are in so much as that he feels like he's got to go on the defensive publicly. Because if, for instance, Michael Edwards is on the phone to him, going, well, we're right behind you, we've got this, we understand, don't worry about it. You maybe not being as prickly as he has been. And then that brings other questions in so much as what is his position, where is he under pressure, has a decision already been made? Because to me, the behaviour, maybe I'm over-egging it, but his language at the minute is almost defeatist, even in victory. And it's almost as if he knows what direction of travel it's going, and he's either not happy about it or he's trying to defend his own position. But I don't think he's doing it in a way that's helping him.
Yeah, it is an interesting situation. I saw Lewis Steele tweet. Obviously, Lewis does stuff with us. Like, it was the maddest press conference after the 6-0. So he's known it, and that's the situation. But he is obviously still feeling under pressure. And, if he feels that things are conspiring against him, I guess he knows that, that this isn't necessarily going to make everything better. One quote I want to read out, because it's not one that's been sort of shared. Obviously, the Atalanta one, a couple of other things got a lot more attention. But he said at one point, but I try to explain as best as possible to everyone what I can explain, because I cannot always say everything. I have to protect as much as I can everyone in this football club, from the ownership to the players. And it's just a reminder, Phil, that no matter what we call them, whether it's managers or head coaches, it is all on sort of one man, and there's people above him who are part of a lot of the decisions that have got us where we are now, who he feels he needs to protect. He feels like he works for an ownership group and he wants to represent them well. And then also there's footballers who he won't want to necessarily thrown under the bus.
Well,
or unless you have Calvin Ramsey, arguably. I don't even think he really did that. But you know, there's footballers who I think he's mindful to protect. Certainly the ones, you know, is players who've, you know, been part of the leadership team and things like that. Like he wants to protect Virgil, for example, you know, and others. And so he is in a difficult situation here where there's things he would, I'm sure, want to say, even though I agree with James. I think he is a really honest guy. But there's being honest and leaving stuff out. There's being honest about the things.
Being smart.
Yeah, there's being honest about the things that you feel comfortable talking about, and the stuff that you go, it's best that I don't talk about that because it's not my position or it's someone's personal life. Or, you know, so for example, with Canate, we didn't know any of this stuff that was going on, and I'm sure there's times where the manager was tempted to go, do you know what he's fucking got going on in his life, and you just slaughter him every week on your shit podcast. And so I'm sure he thinks it's very good.
I was going to say, which one's he talking about?
So
Press conference extra.
He loves that, never misses it. He just buys tokens, don't subscribe, mate. It's a more economical decision. What was I saying? Yeah, so there's times when he'd be wanting to say stuff and can't, and I did have a little bit of sympathy for him when I read that, because you'd almost be responsible for as head of this mad organisation / mafia family, even though you're not.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've been a bit frustrated with this season is people confusing excuses and reasons. Like, he explains someone says, what's the problem? And he goes, well, this is the problem. And then someone goes, I can't believe he's using that as an excuse. And I was just a bit like, well, he's just telling you what the problem is. Like, I'd rather have the manager who knows what the problem is. Like, if a manager knows what the problem is, he can go some way to fixing it. He might not be able to fix it and someone else might have to fix it. That's fine. But if you don't know what the problem is, that's more of a problem in itself than anything else. And he could possibly come out and say there's this problem, there's that problem, there's the other. And then ultimately it's not helping people. And then people go, oh, you're passing the buck. It's just take responsibility for yourself. Like, for example, Canate is a good example of that. And if he'd have said, you know, there might have been a world where he would have taken him out of the firing line, but there was no alternative.
Yeah.
And he can't say, I want to take him out the firing line because of this. Because someone would then go, you can't be saying that in public. And you probably can't.
Yeah.
There are things that you have to just sit there and wear, for want of a better phrase. And that feels like quite an interesting thing. There might be frustrations that he has, but at the same time, if you come out and start firing at people, like, it puts you under pressure from the people that are employing you, and then it makes it a problem for you in the longer term. Like the way Amarim's been talking, for example, Amarim was not far off making himself unemployable by the end, because everyone's looking at him going, well, he's mad.
Yeah, see what press conferences do, that's it.
Yeah.
Slot's nowhere near that.
No, I agree completely.
He's not
but because he's
bosses.
not saying things that some other people would, and other people, and he possibly could say there's things that he, by the sounds of it, could say.
Yeah.
But the things that he is saying, just to go back to what Andy was saying about, Andy said that, you know, words are important, intention's important as well. It's not just words; it's the intention behind them. Do you know what I mean? And I think for a lot of this, I think his intentions are in the right place. I just think he's a really honest guy, and I think he's under a lot of pressure. And those two things together, it's just really unhelpful. Just don't do any more press conferences.
But he's got it because it's in the rules.
I just think a perfect example. The fact there's even a talking point today, after that yesterday, kind of proves the point.
Yeah. Do you think in Hamilton, which I often come back to, Adam Bear gives the advice, talk less, smile more, to Alexander Hamilton. I mean, it doesn't work out great for either of them, I'll be honest with you.
Spoilers.
But it's true. Hamilton does not take that advice, and Aaron Bear just ends up in a little bit of nothingness because no one knows what he thinks. But do you think there should be a little bit of a talk less, smile more from him? I'd love the next press conference to be fucking shite. Honestly, I'd love it to be awful.
Just give really stock answers for a while.
Newcastle are a good team, got a lot of respect.
Yeah, absolutely. They play good football. It's going to be a challenge. We're going to have to be at our best. Yada yada yada.
Where's the fun in that, though?
Where's the content in that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about?
We'll figure out something. They go on tangents on press conferences. Don't worry about them. JFK. That's what they're like.
It's more Ian Ryan I'm worrying about for the league games, to be honest.
Ian'll be fine. He'll always give you the standard 45 minutes plus the time for the caller on whatever it is you're doing. No, I would, because I'm with you, Andy. I want him to do well, and I think there's people who will always just sort of back the manager, whoever he is, and that's great. Then there's people who have just decided that they hate him and they want him out, so they can't win them over, and so are jumping on little things, and obviously that's less great. But I think most people are sort of in the middle. It might be like me, sort of airing on, if Alonso was available, let's swap him, or might be, stick with it for now and see what goes on, but it's just sort of in the middle. And I think most people are there in some way, and I think most people just wanted to enjoy last night, and then you see that, you're like, oh, fuck it.
No.
And aren't looking for an excuse to have a go with the manager, are actually just looking to have a really nice time and a really nice evening, and I'd love him to win every game, because when the Reds win, we all win. So I think a nice quiet press conference tomorrow. Dull as Dutch water.
Dutch water?
Did you say Dutch water or dishwater?
I said dishwater.
It sounded like Dutch
water. Is good.
Is that like bong water?
It should logically be all flat because it's canals.
Is that like bong water?
No idea. The words, sometimes the words just come out of my mouth.
I thought you meant like canals. I thought it was quite clear.
It was an accidental slip
Canals
of
are
the
a
tongue.
bit dull, really, aren't they? There's no waves or anything.
Yeah, dull as Dutch water. T-shirt.
To answer your question,
Talk less, man, more.
yeah, and that's the part of the frustration in so much as we have got people, and they're within their right to have a certain opinion on the manager. They'll see that and just lump on it and lash on it, and it's just like, that's the point I'm trying to make it earlier, probably poorly. This is where he isn't doing himself any favours, and you articulated it perfectly then, where after the game and you read the quotes and your first reaction is, oh, for fuck's sake. But it is.
Yeah.
It is. And people have already made the mind up. Well, some people have already made the mind up again, which is their right. And every time, he says something slightly out of kilter, it will be used. You're 100% correct. And then I'm also going to be a hypocrite now and say, I'm also one of those people who said that I want more honesty from the media, people in football when they're interviewed, and I like it, and I think it's refreshing. But I think that there is a balance. I think what you said, again, yourself and James, about you can still tell the truth, but you can still not say everything that you need and still make your point. So,
well, that's what we had with Klopp. There's a hangover from Klopp. We had 10 years of a manager who could be really, really honest, whilst not giving too much away, whilst not throwing anyone under the bus or giving any talking points. It was just very, very brilliant.
I just think it was. I just think that the timing after the result yesterday wasn't great, and I think with Newcastle, just straight batter as much as you can, and maybe also, when he speaks about the Newcastle game, which he has to, obviously is contractually obliged to, maybe touch on how happy he was with the Qarabag performance. And maybe open or start with that. I mean, I'm not telling anyone how to do the job or give them a script, but put the focus back on the performance, because that's what we should be talking about. Yeah. And then lead into Newcastle.
I suppose one thing you can sort of say for him is that it's easier to say stuff after you've won, theoretically, but evidently it isn't. like he's not had many opportunities to sort of talk after we've won.
Just carry that positivity forward into the next game.
Yeah. That's a land to a home. I was at the races that day at Aintree. We were like, hospitality, free bars. Didn't give a shit. You should have watched.
I went the next day.
You should have watched it like that. Through one eye in a bar in town. Doesn't really matter. Don't worry about it.
Best way.
That is part 2. We're going to look ahead to Newcastle in part 3. Okay, back in the room with Phil, with James, and with Andy. Look ahead to Newcastle. Phil, he's not going to have a huge amount more players. He did say after the game that Joe Gomez could be available, which is interesting. Obviously, Curtis Jones with illness is not going to be a long-term one, but whether he, when he's back in training, how much energy he feels has on Saturday, they're the two. Frimpong doesn't look as bad as what we feared when he went down, but he's not going to be available for Saturday, so it might end up being the team with Endo, from 5 minutes onwards, but he'd be, obviously he's going to be open to get Joe Gomez back in there, I'm sure.
Yeah, he would be. It didn't seem like it was a long-term thing with Gomez.
It's more of a collision.
It was a collision thing. I think.
Did they say what he actually hurt?
Basically, his I think it was his hip. I think.
Basically, Alisson's dead hard. Basically,
yeah, don't run into Alisson because he'll fucking smash it.
Yeah, Alisson clattered it.
Sore for ages.
It is. Yeah, so he's not going to be a million miles away, and hopefully he's back. I mean, the thing with Kanate is he's not actually injured, is he? We don't obviously can take as much time as he wants and needs, but he might have woken up this morning and gone, I want to play football on Saturday.
Yeah.
And you don't know, and he's not injured, so it's not. He will just come back at some point, and that time is when he's ready, and it's no pressure.
And it's a lot of credit to the club on that kind of.
Yeah,
just think because it's not great at the moment, and I think the temptation must be to go like, lad, can you come back and help out here? But the fact that they are just giving him time, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. He should be allowed to take as long as he wants until he feels right. Ultimately, you don't.
Because he'll remember being treated like 100%.
That as well. Ultimately, you don't want to put a footballer on the pitch. He doesn't want to be on the pitch. Like, if he's not there, then it's better. It's better having somebody else there anyway.
Yeah,
Even if it's someone playing that position, someone who's mentally there is better for things. So he can take as long as he wants and come back whenever he's comfortable, as far as I'm concerned. You would think it's probably not a million miles away from the side that sort of plays the core of the game last night, I would say. Maybe Jones in for Gakpo, potentially, just to solidify the midfield a bit, because that's one of Newcastle's areas of strength, I would say. So I think you'd probably struggle against Newcastle if you just went, we're going to play McAllister and Szoboszlai as a two. I don't think that would be a particularly sensible idea. So maybe you'd look at that, but other than that, it's the core of what was there last night, I'd say. Yeah,
that's what he's got, but I think last night I was pleased that when Frimpong went off, we just sort of carried on. There wasn't 5-10 minutes where they all looked like they were a bit sort of nervous about it. Endo came on and just played right back and just went, I'll just do this. And
does really well.
It does really well, and I think we didn't seemingly just change our game plan or our focus or our outlook, if you like, based on it. He's going to play it differently. I would imagine, he'll have bigger challenges in terms of, players sort of running at them. We don't want him there for a long time, because the problem with someone out of position, I think, is, and playing there a lot, is that people start getting plans for it. Whereas last night, Qarabag can't have a plan for Endo at right back, and even if they had, they probably wouldn't be able to execute it anyway, because they didn't have enough to the ball in attacking areas. But, I think on the odd occasion where you do need them, I think it is fine. And I was pleased for him, because he's had to be really patient. There's times where he's not even made the bench this season, and I remember United at home, he wasn't even on the bench when he was fit, because there wasn't room for him. So I was pleased for him, and he just shows he won't let people down.
Yeah, that's a big thing. No, he won't let people down, and I think it's going to be a really, really different challenge to Newcastle. Really, really different in every respect. It's going to be really, really physical for a start, especially in the midfield. Newcastle, resting players, they're going to be bang up for it. I mean, they want retribution as well for what happened at their place.
Yeah.
They're going to be coming at it all guns blazing. And actually, having a player like Endo, having to start the game is no bad thing. He's a very, very physical player, very, very strong, got really good engine, doesn't stop, doesn't seem particularly fazed by anything. He's not the most skillful, but sometimes, in a game like that where you're coming up against, you've got players who are, quick and sprightly. Anthony Gordon springs to mind, and then you've got just big lumps who will just try to hurt you, because that's what they did at St James's Park.
The main one is out, thankfully, isn't he? Gillinton's.
He's
absent.
But he's the one that you would have really.
Means I'll probably be less enraged when he's assaulted someone for the 33rd time and still hasn't been booked.
He just got himself sent off again.
Yeah, right. That's eventually.
But yeah, there's so many things I liked about last night. Gravenberch, I thought played really, really well. It's going to be interesting to see how he fares against the proper Premier League side.
You would imagine.
His
visits come on as well. Like, they're proper forwards. Make things hard for you.
Yeah, you have to be really, really professional in that instance. And his instinct is going to be to move forward, and he's just not going to be able to. He's going to have to be really, really resolute and really, really solid. Which is why you rely on players like Virgil van Dijk next to him. I'm not terrified about facing Newcastle right now. But it is going to be a really, really physical game, and we're going to have to be really up for it.
Yeah, they've been up and down this season. Their away form is pretty poor in the Premier League so far. They never really feel like their season's got going, maybe sort of similar to us. I like that it's 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. I think, hopefully that'll help with the atmosphere and get us up for it, because, as James says, it has been a little bit flat so far this season. I just want them to come together and say, you know, forget about injuries, forget about maybe what's gone wrong, but we've got enough quality here, and if we fight for each other and get behind each other, then there's enough to beat them. I'm hoping to see that kind of attitude from Liverpool.
Yeah, the Man City game aside, I think in the games where we've anticipated it being tough, we've actually been better. It's a Villa at Anfield, given the immediate example. Well, yeah, Real Madrid. I mean, great what happened to them last night. Anyway, back on subject. I can't see a world in which Endo starts right back, though, against Newcastle, given the pace down the flanks. But that doesn't mean, because James referenced there, the strength of midfield. One thing we do know is that Endo's robust. I'm not saying this is what I think will happen, but it's a possibility that they shift it round and maybe you'd see Szoboszlai right back. I know it's not ideal, but then you consider he's up against Anthony Gordon.
He's played there before as well.
He's played there before as well. And then if Jones is back as well, that gives you another option in midfield. Yeah. Phil will know, and I'm sure he'll correct me, but Newcastle's record at Anfield is not great at all.
I don't think they've won since 1994.
Yeah.
I think
Andy Cole. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Was it? Yeah, I was there. I was standing there. He rode at that point as well. It was a banger.
Nice.
But no, so their record's not been great. I always feel like Newcastle, you know, we've had the 4-3s and one thing, and they always tend to be decent games, but I just think it's the perfect opponent for Liverpool at the moment, given that they've had a positive result midweek and, you know, everyone's a bit happy with everything, and it's one they can really get the teeth into. Weirdly, paradoxically, I would actually be more confident if Newcastle's away record wasn't so wretched, because they might be tempted to come and actually try and play, as opposed to, right, look, draw's okay, we can not so much sit back, but draw's okay, and we get a win, it's a bonus, as opposed to coming and going, we can win here.
Do you not think they'll come thinking we can win it, given
I don't
last
think,
night aside, given our performances?
No, because again, when we've come out and we've had a team that wants to play against us, we've been okay.
We've done really well against teams who want to play.
We've been okay. That's the thing, and they'll be looking at it. A draw isn't the end of the world for them, is it? If you're coming to Anfield, you get out with a point and you're Newcastle, you know, you're all right. You're all right. The fans would take that. The manager wouldn't get questioned over it, and if you snatch a winner, great. Whereas if you're flying and your away form's good, and you look at how Liverpool have toiled, to be like, oh, we can have a go with them here, and see where the cards fall. From Liverpool's point of view, I'm just hoping that they can maintain individually the form they showed the other night. I thought Ekitike was sensational, and I think they'll be, and also you've got the subtext of them wanting to sign him in the summer as well. Yeah. You know, so I think it's a prime opportunity to show what he's got, and like really, really impressed, because again, you talk about Qarabag and their class. Some of the things that kid's shown of late.
Oh, I love him.
Like it's ceiling, and his goal last night. And listen, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Torres Vidic thing. Yeah. The way he executed it, and once he got away, it was really what I was made of. Once he got away, they were never catching him. No. One of the most frustrating things in football for me is when you see a footballer who's not necessarily slow, but they beat the man, and then they kind of get in a foot race. And the pace with the ball is slower than the pace without the ball. Yeah. With Ekitike, he seems to have that quality where he's just as quick. There's hardly any noticeable drop off between when he's got the ball at his feet or when he's chasing anything. And I don't think that Newcastle particularly quick at the Big Dan Burn. He's not the quickest in the world, is he?
Botman.
And then Wirtz, the form that Florian Wirtz has been, and not just the night, consistently now for the last 3 weeks. I think we forget sometimes, because of the way the season's gone, that Eddie Howe will be looking at our Liverpool team and he'll be looking at, they can hurt us here. They can really hurt us. So I'm confident.
I'm intrigued by, their approach really intrigues me, just in terms of, I think one of the things they've really struggled with in sort of 2 of the last 3 seasons is the intensity of all of the football. And I think they've played every midweek since the November international break. And they've played PSG away in the week. And they played Sunday as opposed to Saturday, and like if we were to pick when we would want to play Newcastle any weekend this season, you'd probably pick this weekend. Like if we're being perfectly honest, that's doesn't mean that we'll just go out and turn up and win comfortably, but it puts things in your favour a bit more. And they're not going to have a great deal of time to prepare for this game, because they'll obviously travelled down on Friday. They'll either have got back from France late last night or sometime today. And there's just little things that probably help you that you can go, oh, I'm glad we've got that one. So we've had quite a comfortable game at home in midweek. They've had PSG away. They played away at the European champions.
And they've not got a massive
They were
squad
in the
either.
game for 90 minutes, and they've made changes, but they still got a couple out. And you'd hope that Liverpool are able to sort of feed off that and make use of it, really.
Yeah. Andy's got to be convinced we're going to win, to be honest with you. After that, I'm like...
I'm down to the last 4 of
Kiss
them.
of death.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only week 3.
Oh,
Because week one was mad. It took 7. I think there's 81 people in it. It took 76 out in week 1.
I've got one that didn't last 3 weeks.
Triple rollover this one.
It's
4 of us left.
Oh, good luck to you.
Can I tell
Someone
you,
had Bournemouth last week. That really annoyed me. Bit of a problem, John.
Yeah, never mind.
you mentioned this at the 8 o'clock. You know why it's an extra double bonus for me? I get out of a Burns night event in Hightown. Saturday night.
Do you know why it's extra
Made
great
up.
for me?
Go on.
It's my birthday.
There you go, see?
It's mine
Trumpet me
tomorrow.
again. Every day's Phil's birthday.
There we are. Phil's birthday, James's birthday, apparently it's Craig Hannon's birthday early next week as well. He's telling me he's itching to get out. So, yeah, wherever you watch it in the world, get out, enjoy it. If you're in Anfield, then up the Reds as loudly as you can, because they might need us at various points. And so let's remember that as well. Big game Saturday night. Loads on the Anfield Wrap looking ahead to it. So pre-match warm-up we've mentioned a couple of times. Really great show on the Anfield Wrap. That will be after the uneventful press conference tomorrow, but they'll still make it an absolutely brilliant show. There'll be a Newcastle caller in there as well. Really interested to hear how they are getting on. And then straight after the game, post-match reaction from the Glen book, audio and video. Last night's was Boss. It was really good. I don't know if people have listened or watched
Listened to the audio,
they've just watched that goalkeeper score for Benfica, so the Reds have just completely gone on that. But no, it was a really good show, and I'm halfway through post-match pint. So you've got those to listen to and enjoy on the app now as well. And then straight after the game on Saturday, you have all of those. We did a gutter today as well. Phil Blundell did it. Told me it was excellent. Talking about potential transfers now and into the summer. So loads of reasons to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. Loads of reasons to get stuck in. If you come into Ireland next week, we will see you. Really, really looking forward to it. This time next week, I will be on our way to Dublin. So we'll have done Limerick the night before. It would have been brilliant. I'll still have the crowd's cheers ringing in my ears. But we'll be off to Dublin, which I'm sure will be fantastic as well. And then we've got Derry and Belfast. Dublin sold out, but the other fee you can still get tickets for at the anfieldwrap.com/TAW Live. I think it is Australia Live Show tickets available there as well. I think that is everything. Are we all right? Are we good to go? Any other business?
I've got no admin, so...
I got through quite a bit there.
We covered a lot.
Yeah, I've covered a lot.
Honestly, right, none of his admin has been scripted either. Genuinely.
We need to find out. We need to do a deep dive on YouTube to see just how many people in Azerbaijan watch Hollyoaks though. That's all I want.
Someone will know. Phil Redmond, you'll know.
Why doesn't he know?
Email me.
Why doesn't he get a weekly email?
Phil keeps it to himself. There we are. Up the Reds.